16th, 2021 Board of Aldermen meeting. Would everyone please join with me in saying the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Roll call, please, Kelly.
Alderman Plufka.
Here.
Alderwoman Tice.
Here.
Alderwoman Sims.
Here.
Alderman Weggie.
Here.
Alderman Gould.
Here.
Alderman Lockmiller.
Here.
Alderwoman Ebling.
Here.
Alderwoman O'Neill.
Here.
Great. All members are present.
Okay, thank you. I did skip over one item, and that was the 1B new agenda item. That was an item that I asked Bull to put on the agenda late today, and that is simply to go into closed session for a personnel matter. And so we'll take that up later at the agenda approval, but hopefully the board will go ahead and approve that. Next on the agenda is item 3, announcements, appointments, proclamations, and recognitions. We have 3 of them tonight. The first is the announcement regarding the Metropolitan St. Louis Sewer District 2021 MSD rate proposal presentation, Prop Y. Bola, who is handling that?
I think it's Mr. Gee. Do we see him in the?
It's not, it's me.
Oh, it's you,
Brett.
Brett. I'm sorry.
That's fine. How's everybody this evening?
Hold.
Oh, yeah. Hi, my name's Brett Berthold. I'm the Director of Operations at the Metropolitan St. Louis Sewer District, and I'm here to talk to you about some propositions that we're going to have on the ballot on April 6th. There's 6 of them. 1 of them pertains to our wastewater rates, and 5 of them pertain to proposed charter changes that will be on the ballot. And I'd like to talk about Prop Y here first. And if it's okay, I would like to share my screen. Is that fine?
Sure, go right ahead, Brett.
Thank you. Everybody see that okay?
Yes.
Okay, super. And I'll be brief and want to field any questions I can. Hopefully I can answer them. If not, I'll reflect them to our public information group. But Prop Y has to deal with our how we are going to fund our wastewater rates over the next several years. We recently had a rate commission that set our rates. Our board approved them. And this is how we're going to fund our capital program over the next several years. So just a little bit about it. It's about a $1.6 billion program over 3 years, many capital projects. And you see some of the highlights there. We still have a number of overflow points that we need to eliminate. We're going to build a whole bunch more of new sewers, do a lot of inspection and maintenance, and then several of our larger projects include replacement of our incinerators at the Bissell and Lemay treatment plants, as well as continue a tunnel from our Fenton treatment plant to our Lower Merrimack treatment plant, with the ultimate goal of eliminating our Fenton treatment plant. Now, how are we going to do that? We have a couple options here, and really I want to get to the meat of the presentation, and that's what our proposition is that's coming up on April 6th. And this is very similar to what's been on the ballot back in 2012 and 2016. We're going to the voters to ask for either bond financing, which with the yes vote, they approve about $500 million in bond financing for us, which will then reflect the rates that are there on the left-hand side of the screen. So currently we're in fiscal year 21. for our average customer right now, their bill is about $56.40. As we go through over the next several years, you see the increases with a yes vote. It goes up about 3.5% a year. With a no vote, basically that means we have to pay cash as we go. It's cheaper in the long run because we pay less interest, but you can see what it does to our rates here in the short term. They go up much quicker and much higher, with an average increase of about 15% per year to fund the capital program through cash. So that's what Proposition Y is. Like I said, it'll be on the April 6th ballot throughout the city of St. Louis and our 90% of the county. You know, our whole service area will be there for all the municipalities and all our voters to vote on. And with that, I'd ask any questions.
If you do have any questions, now's the time to ask them, folks.
And
Yeah, Alderman Lockmuller.
Yeah, Brett, you know, I guess you guys last year turned back on the OMCI. Does this have any effect in the amount of funds that will be generated there, or is this just to finance those projects you listed earlier?
it will have no impact on our OMCI. That's OMCI funds. Those are for stormwater projects. This is strictly for wastewater. And this is really, again, asking folks how we're going to fund all the projects going for this rate cycle. But it has nothing to do with the OMCI turning those back on.
Okay, thank you.
All right, thank you. Alderman Waggy, and you're muted.
Yeah, Brett, so can you go back to the first slide or just tell me, so this is a 3-year capital improvement project, right? So the table you're showing there with the increases, the 17 and the 15%, 13% increase, after that in fiscal year 25, then it would go down significantly, right? To your point, it would be cheaper overall, but when would that spike end?
That spike, actually, if we continue with bonding, the spike rates will stop going up in about, I think it's 2033 timeframe, and then it will become cheaper. But this is just covering the next several years. There, we will be going back to our rate commission. You know, our rates will continue to go up over the next rate cycle again. You know, we'll work very hard to keep the increases as small as possible. But as far as the tip over point between, you know, bonding or not bonding, I believe that's out in like 2033 timeframe.
But what about the spike of the no vote, right? So you're showing a 17% and a 13% increase in 23 and 24. What happens in 25?
It probably continues to go up a little bit, but I think it tops out, and don't quote me on this, I can get you some exact figures, around $95. And then after that, it would go back down. I believe that's what the chart reflects that I've seen lately.
Okay, thanks.
You're welcome.
Anyone else?
And please, if something comes up later, you know, you have our contact information. We're happy to get back to you with any sort of questions you have.
Great. Thank you. Yeah, go ahead, Brett.
Then I'll move on. We do have 5 charter changes. We're required every 10 years to review our charter. So our Charter Change Commission convened, and these are the recommendations that were brought back and approved by the board. And I'll just briefly go over them. The first one, it really updates the language in the charter. You know, the charter was written back in 1954. It's been modernized a little bit, but we're just trying to bring it up to today's standards. And just so you know, a couple of the things, you know, the laws change, so we're trying to update it with and follow the law, like mentioning all the protected classes. You know, being able to post things digitally. You know, if you read the charter, a lot of it says must be posted in the newspaper. So those types of things. So that's what Proposition 1 covers. And again, details on these are all out on our website with the exact proposed changes in the charter. If you're interested, you can go read it. Proposition 2 deals with voting and approving ordinances by our board. Currently, right now, we're represented by 6 board members, 3 from the city, appointed from the city, and 3 appointed from the county. To pass an ordinance right now, it requires 2 city yes votes and 2 county trustees yes votes. At times, we are down a trustee, and we only have 5. And there may be a conflict of interest that a trustee does not wish to vote on an ordinance, but would like it to pass. And so under those circumstances, the board can then say, listen, we're going to give approval to have 3 county members and 1 city member approve something, or 3 city members and 1 county member, in order to keep business moving along. The other thing is currently there's a 15-day waiting period for ordinances to take into effect. And we're going to change that. Once an ordinance is approved, it can go into effect immediately. Proposition 3 deals with some changes with our rate commission, mainly defining that there's 1 voting member from one of the 15 groups that make up the rate commission. Currently it's like the Botanical Garden and the Associated General Contractors. It defines that. It also defines the length of the proceedings. Currently now the proceedings are 120 days with a 45-day extension possible. We've always used the 45-day extension, so now we're just going to make it that the proceedings are a total of 165 days. Proposition 4 changes the composition for trustees, compensation. Currently right now, they get paid $25 per board meeting. It's been $25 since 1954. The trustees currently have 2 meetings per month. One is a committee meeting, one is a board meeting. And what this does is compensate them $25 for each meeting. So what it's basically doing is changing our trustees' compensation from $300 a year to $600 a year. And the last one permits us to use the same auditing firm. Currently, our charter is written that we must change every 5 years. We find difficulty in procuring these services due to the type of entity we are. So Proposition 5 would allow the same auditing firm to bid on our services, but they must change their managing partner, their auditing partner that leads the audit. And so that's what Proposition 5 is. And that's all I have. If you need questions, I'm sure everybody probably knows Sean better than me. But Sean's contact information is there and everything, and please reach out to him. I'll open it up for any questions. And I'll stop.
Thanks,
sharing.
Brad.
Stop
If anybody
sharing.
has any questions, just go ahead and ask away, because I can't see. Oh, there we go. All right, we have none. So thanks again for your time, Brad.
You're very welcome. Thank you.
All right, next on the agenda, we have a couple of proclamations. The first is for Supermarket Employee Day, which is going to be this coming February 22nd. I will just go ahead and read it. Whereas there are nearly 6 million supermarket employees in the United States, and whereas in the Brentwood area, there are 1,466 food retail jobs that generate approximately $209 million in economic activity. And whereas supermarket employees provide all Americans with access to safe, healthy, and affordable food, and whereas supermarket employees work to enhance the health and well-being of each customer, and whereas supermarket employees contribute and volunteer countless hours in their communities, and whereas supermarket employees face unprecedented challenges keeping grocery shelves stocked during the COVID-19 pandemic, and whereas supermarket employees have and continue to meet and exceed these challenges while displaying courage, compassion, dedication, and leadership, as well as exemplifying customer service and community outreach. And whereas the need for supermarket employees is greater than ever because of current and growing consumer demands, as well as their reputation for excellence. Now, therefore, I, David Dimmitt, Mayor of Brentwood, Missouri, do hereby proclaim February 22nd, 2021 as Supermarket Employee Day and ask all citizens to join in honoring our supermarket heroes. Presented the 16th day of February 2021. Next on the agenda is another recognition. Yes, so let's go ahead and patronize the numerous grocery stores that we have in Brentwood. Recognition of Dr. Collins Lewis. This is probably not new to any of you, as we went ahead and posted this on social media last week, but for those who didn't see it, whereas it is with extreme pride and great pleasure that I, Mayor David Dimmitt, recognize Ward 3 Brentwood, Missouri resident, Dr. Collins Lewis, as he is honored with the National Citizen Scientist Cornerstone Award from the Global Alzheimer's Platform Foundation on Thursday, February 11th, 2021. And whereas Alzheimer's disease is a national public health crisis affecting 5.8 million Americans, including 120,000 Missourians, 90% of Alzheimer's studies are delayed due to insufficient participant recruitment, making research participants the key to finding a cure. And whereas the Global Alzheimer's Platform Foundation Citizen Scientist Cornerstone Award honors a clinical trial volunteer who has personally made extraordinary efforts to support local research and participate in a trial. And whereas Collins Lewis has personally made extraordinary efforts to support local research and participate in an Alzheimer's trial, a vocal leader for recruitment at outreach events to educate potential volunteers about research opportunities. And now, therefore, I, David Dimmitt, by virtue of the authority vested in me as Mayor of Brentwood, Missouri, hereby recognize and express our appreciation for the efforts and contributions of Collins Lewis and offer him our sincere congratulations and very best wishes. In witness whereof, I have hereunto set my hand and caused the seal of Brentwood to be affixed this 11th day of February in the year 2021. Presented the 16th day of February 2021. Thank you, Dr. Lewis. Next on the agenda is public hearing. If anybody in attendance or in the audience cares to address the board, now is the time to do so. You will be given up to 3 minutes. Kelly, if you would just let me know.
No one has their hand raised at this time.
Thank you. Next on the agenda is finally the approval of the agenda. Are there any changes to the agenda? Any objection to approving the same by acclamation? Seeing none, it will be so approved. I'm sorry, I messed things up there. Public hearing, that was not, so we're going to skip over item 6, citizen comments, having done that already. Which brings us to mayor and alderman reports. First up is the mayor. I just have a couple of things. First is I want to take this opportunity to thank our Public Works Department for their efforts yesterday. As we all know, this was a very unusual day for St. Louis. It could have been worse. I guess we could have been in Texas and not have the heat, but with their ice storm. But it still was an incredible challenge for the folks in Public Works. As you know, we had 2 trucks that were sidelined going into the day with mechanical failures. One failure required one of our employees actually to drive all the way out to St. Peter's yesterday during the storm to get the replacement part, come back and install it. So they're able to put one of the trucks online. The other truck, the part was not going to be available until today. So I think we might be back up fully operational, hopefully, in time for this next snow event, which is supposed to be tomorrow. But again, a public acknowledgement and thank you for all those folks. I know they're working 12-hour shifts from 7 to 7 to tackle those roads. And given the extreme cold, it was very, very difficult to keep the roads clear, but they did a phenomenal job. And the same thing for our police department that still continued to patrol the neighborhoods last night, even with the problems with the streets. Secondly, as you probably know, our fire chief, Terry Curtin, has made the decision to go ahead and retire, and that is going to be effective March the 5th. We will have some type of ceremony to acknowledge that at a future date, but I just wanted to let you all know and let the residents know that Terry has decided to go on to better things, actually enjoy his family, because the amount of time that is necessary to be the chief of the fire department is incredible. And so he's going to finally get a chance to kind of enjoy his family. So that's all that I have. We will move on to Alderman Plufka.
No report.
Alderwoman Tice.
No report.
Alderwoman Sims.
No report.
Alderman Weggie.
I'd just like to second that thanks to Public Works, especially with all the construction equipment that MSD has laying around our streets. It's been quite the challenge for them to get around it, and they've been able to do it. So I'm always amazed, and even more amazed this year. So thank you very much. That's it.
Alderman Gould.
Just want to recognize and thank Dr. Collins for his service, and that's amazing recognition. So thank you very much. No report.
Alderman Lockmuller.
Public Safety will meet virtually next Wednesday, February 24th at 5:30. Thank you.
Great. Alderwoman Ebeling.
No report, but I would like to thank the people who got out today and collected our trash. It couldn't have been a fun job.
And Alderwoman O'Neill.
Yes, next Tuesday will be the Ward 4 meeting. Alderwoman Ebling and I will speak at the Brentwood Forest Condo Association Board of Managers meeting, and all residents of Brentwood and of Brentwood Forest are welcome to attend.
All right, great. Let's move on to the next item, which is City Administrator Report. We have 2 items under that. The first is the Brentwood Bound update, and I see Craig is in attendance.
Good evening, Craig Schiller with Navigate Building Solutions. I'll be providing the typical update I normally go through, but before I do that, I do want to mention that on the consent agenda, we recently took another bid event for demo package 1C. This is the final demo package that allows the remaining buildings within Brentwood Bound to be demolished. The low bidder was Marshall Wrecking, and Public Works approved the recommended contractor in a unanimous vote last Thursday. This bid package is roughly $360,000 less than budget. So we continue that positive trend with Brentwood Bound that so far we're 4 for 4 for bid events coming in below budget. So we keep the good news coming, and that's a positive trend that will continue with the remaining few bid packages we have. Going into my typical Brentwood Bound update, starting with construction costs. Total spend since the last Board of Aldermen meeting was $1,090,539.59. This was for the flood mitigation phase 1 contractors, 2 payouts for December and January construction services. Next is soft costs. Total spend since the last Board of Aldermen meeting is $126,745.68. This was for legal fees, marketing expenses, project management fees, material testing inspections, environmental surveys, and redevelopment consulting fees. There were no property acquisitions since the last Board of Aldermen meeting. And going down to the bottom of the report on additional funding sources. So another piece of good news, Eric led the successful grant award on the Missouri Department of Natural Resources. It's a grant called Conservation Land Acquisition Program Grant. So the city will receive $200,000 for the acquisition of that wetland to the south of the Bi-State Metro Garage. So that's really exciting because that's a piece of property that could be used for parkland that the city's been looking at for a while. So there'll be more discussions with the board in the future, but that was a $200,000 grant that the city has received since the last Board of Aldermen meeting. That's my report.
Great. Do you have any questions? Yes, Alderman Plufka. Lost your
Sorry,
name. There we go.
I wanted to mute myself and I knocked myself off video. Craig and Navigate, I just wanted to say thank you for your continued stewardship on this project. Once again, bringing a demolition project under budget, and then also once again finding another grant source for this project. Your abilities on this project to this point have been, I think, terrific, and I think it bears repeating. I appreciate the updates, but it bears repeating that we, from time to time, take an opportunity to say thank you. The other thing I would thank you for is the opportunity to tour the Brentwood bound area a week ago last Saturday. I'm really thankful it wasn't last Saturday, and it was really great. It was very eye-opening to see all of what's been done, and to, with your help, sort of imagine how this is going to look in a year from now. It's remarkable, and it was a lot of fun, and time and again, from the outside looking in, you see, you and the people that work for Navigate answer questions on the fly. You guys have such command of the facts. I really appreciate that, and I admire that. You guys do your due diligence consistently, and you really do have a good handle on this project. So thank you for all of that.
Thank you for those kind words.
Any other questions for Craig? I think I was muted there. If not, then we will move on to the next item under the City Administrator Report, which is the report, I believe, by Gina from Kerber, Eck, and Bruckle.
Correct. Thank you, Mayor and Board of Aldermen. So I'm here tonight to review the independent accountant's review report on the agreed upon procedures related to the expenditures of the certificate of participation proceeds from the Brentwood bound project for the period October 1st, 2020 through December 31st, 2020. So in our independent accountant's review report, dated February 1st, 2021, which you should have a copy of, we looked at request number 61 through 69, and that included 87 invoices totaling just over $9.4 million. And those were related to the Series 2018 COPs. Under Procedure 1, or Step 1, we compare the invoices to the signed contracts with various consultants approved by the Board of Aldermen. And as noted in our findings, we had no exceptions. Under Step 2, we examined the invoices to determine that the city's policies and internal controls were followed. And for all 87 invoices, no exceptions were noted. And then in our third step, we examined all of the invoices for proper payments allowed by the official statement of the COPs, and found no exceptions in that either. There were also no requests for disbursements under the 2019 COPs, so no procedures were performed on those. So a good, clean report this quarter for the Brentwood Bound Renewal Project.
Great, thank you. Thank you, Gina. Yeah, any questions for Gina on that report? Okay, great. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Next on the agenda is the consent agenda. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 items. Do we have any questions on any of those items? Okay, then the chair would entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, I've got a motion by Alderman Weggie, seconded by Alderwoman Sims. Any discussion? Roll call, please, Kelly.
Alderman Plufka,
Yes.
okay. Alderwoman Tice,
Yes.
Alderwoman Sims,
Yes.
Alderman Waggy,
Yes.
Alderman Gould,
Yes.
Alderman Lockmiller,
Yes.
Alderwoman Ebling,
Yes,
Alderwoman O'Neill.
Yes,
Okay. Consent agenda passes by a vote of 8-0.
Great, thank you. Thank you, everybody. We have no old business, which brings us to the next item, which is new business. We have 4 items. Lola, do we have Kevin in attendance?
I knew that he was joining us late, but in his absence, I'm going to,
You can do the readings?
yes.
Okay. Can we get a first reading of bill number 6316 by title only, please?
An ordinance of the city of Brentwood, Missouri, approving a certain real estate sale contract with Ben's Properties LLC for the purchase of a certain property at 2818 Breckenridge Industrial Court, authorizing certain other actions in connection therewith, providing for the effective day of this ordinance, and containing a severability clause.
Great, thank you. We have Mark Murray in attendance. Mark, I don't know if you want to speak to that.
I'd be happy to. This is a bill for your consideration tonight. If approved, it will authorize the mayor to enter into a sale contract with Ben's Properties LLC to purchase the property at 2018 Breckenridge Industrial Court, which is in the city of Webster Groves. This would be in furtherance of kind of a plan for the area, which might involve future plans for the city's public works and also the Brentwood Bound project. The purchase price is $700,000. And we've been working with Miss Brenda Benz on this for a little bit of time. And I think we finally have gotten to come around on this. So that's what's before you tonight on this bill.
Okay, great. Do we have any questions for Mark on this? Alderman Waggy.
Yeah, 2 things. One, just in the synopsis on this, it talks about this as the site for the new Public Works building. I just want to reiterate that that has not been approved or decided upon as what we're going to do with this property. I know we need to buy it for Brentwood Bound. And then just a question for you, Mark. What's the urgency that we're doing a first and a second reading on this tonight?
You would not have to do a second reading tonight as if you didn't want to. We just have traditionally done first and second readings on acquisition, real estate acquisition bills, but I don't see a reason I'd have to do it tonight.
If I may interject, we've been talking with the property owner for several months, and there are some investment properties that she would like to use the proceeds to be able to purchase. That is why we're asking for a first and second reading tonight, so that she doesn't reconsider and the city lose the opportunity of purchasing this property. That's why it's important that the board approve this for a first and second reading tonight.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, unless we have other questions for Mark on the specifics on this bill, what I would like to do is to take up this request for a first and second reading at tonight's meeting. So with that, if I could get a motion for a second read.
So moved. Second.
Okay, we got a motion by Alderwoman Sims, seconded by Alderwoman Tice, I believe it was. There's Kevin O'Keefe. Hello, Kevin. Any discussion on that motion for a second reading? Okay, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously. So, Mr. City Attorney, can we get a second read of Bill 6316, which is item 11A by title only, please?
Yes, sir. Bill number 6316, second reading and consideration for adoption. An ordinance of the city of Brentwood, Missouri, approving a certain real estate sale contract with Ben's Properties LLC for the purchase of a certain property at 2818 Breckenridge Industrial Court, authorizing certain other actions in connection therewith, providing for the effective date of this ordinance, and containing a severability clause.
Thank you. Chair would entertain a motion to perfect Bill 6316 into ordinance form.
So moved. Second.
Okay, any further discussion? Roll call, please.
Alderman Plufka,
Yes.
Alderwoman Tice,
Yes.
okay. Alderwoman Sims,
Yes.
Alderman Waggy,
Yes.
Alderman Gould,
Yes.
Alderman Lockmiller,
Yes.
Alderwoman Ebling,
Yes.
Alderwoman O'Neill.
Yeah.
Okay. Bill number 6316 passes by a vote of 8-0 and will become ordinance number 4954.
Great, thank you. Next on the agenda is bill number 6317. Mr. City Attorney, can we get a reading of bill 6317 by title only, please?
Bill number 6317, first reading, an ordinance of the city of Brentwood, Missouri, approving a certain Missouri Highways and Transportation Commission escrow agreement with the Missouri Highways and Transportation Commission, authorizing certain other actions in connection therewith, providing for the effective date of this ordinance, and containing a severability clause.
Thank you. Who's handling this? Ola?
Mark?
Mark?
Yes. Pardon me, this bill before you tonight is to authorize a sale of about 6,000 square feet to MoDOT by the city of Brentwood on property that the city acquired from Frederick Roofing a couple months ago. In addition to that, it grants MoDOT a temporary easement on about another 1/10 of an acre to the south of what they're buying from the city in fee. And the compensation payable to the city is $54,000, and it's in connection with MoDOT's Highway 100 project.
Okay, thank you. Do we have any questions for Mark on that? Okay, we would like to have a second reading on this item as well tonight. So with that, can we get a motion for second read, please?
So moved.
So moved. Second.
Okay, great. Any discussion on that? All in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Mr. City Attorney, can we get a second read on Bill 6317 by title only, please?
Bill number 6317, second reading and consideration for adoption. An ordinance of the city of Brentwood, Missouri, approving a certain Missouri Highways and Transportation Commission escrow agreement with the Missouri Highways and Transportation Commission, authorizing certain other actions in connection therewith, providing for the effective date of this ordinance, and containing a severability clause.
Great, thank you. Can we get a motion to perfect Bill number 6317 into ordinance form, please?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, any discussion on that? Roll call, please.
Okay, Alderman Plufka,
Yes.
Alderwoman Tice,
Yes.
Alderwoman Sims,
Yes.
Alderman Waggy,
Yes.
Alderman Gould,
Yes.
Alderman Lockmiller,
Yes.
Alderwoman Ebling,
Yes.
Alderwoman O'Neill.
Yes.
Okay. Bill 6317 passes by a vote of 8-0 and will become ordinance 4955.
Thank you. Moves us on to item 11C, Bill number 6318. Can we get a first reading by title only, please?
Yes, sir. Sorry about that. Bill number 6318, first reading, an ordinance granting site plan approval to Navigate Realty LLC for development of a professional office building at 8419 Manchester Road.
Great. Lisa, are you handling this, I'm guessing?
Yes, good evening. So the ordinance before you tonight is for site plan approval by Navigate Realty LLC to construct the professional office building at 8419 Manchester Road. This site plan was reviewed and discussed by the Planning and Zoning Commission at the January 13th and February 10th Planning and Zoning Commission meetings, as well as it was vetted at the January 27th Site Plan Subcommittee meeting. So at the February 10th meeting, the Planning and Zoning Commission had recommended moving forward site plan approval to the board for your review and consideration with actually 3 conditions as they are listed in the ordinance. So I just wanted to point out that there are 3 conditions for site plan approval. One is that the developer provide cross access to the adjoining property to the east for future development, as well as in this case, there are 2 exceptions for the setbacks for this project. One would be from the 25-foot setback, front right-of-way setback along Helen Avenue. It's required that that be a 25-foot setback, but they are asking for a 15-foot exception to still keep a 10-foot setback. And there's also the 3rd condition in the ordinance recommending approval of an exception of the rear setback along the north property line. So in that case, there's only, when there is a property or when it abuts residential property, the rear setback is 25 feet instead of the 10. So the 3rd condition is asking for an exception of 6 feet for that setback and maintaining a 19-foot rear setback. So I do believe Todd Sweeney, the petitioner, is on tonight, and I think he just prepared like a quick presentation for y'all tonight. We want to go to that.
Absolutely. May I share screen, please?
Yes. Go.
Awesome. We, if everybody can see that. Real quick, we know you got a very busy agenda and everybody's working hard. Wanted to spend just a moment to first and foremost express our excitement to be moving our business and our company into the community of Brentwood should this pass. We did a lot of due diligence looking for a community to land our headquarter building, which in our company, which is rapidly growing and fostering new employees and families that would ultimately work, and involve themselves with community. So we're excited about that. There's a lot to be offered in Brentwood, and we're proud of your city and what you're doing. We thought we'd spend a few seconds talking about introductions of who we are. Many of you know our firm, some do not. Our site plan, some building rendering, some sustainability measures, schedule, and then Q&A. Navigate overview, again, to reiterate, some may know this, some may not. We are a consulting firm that provides project management, owner representative, and construction manager advisory services to predominantly public entities in the Midwest. Entities such as municipality, park districts, not-for-profits, public schools, county governments, and federal government. We're actually relocating our headquarters from Crestwood to Brentwood into this new facility. We currently employ 14 employees. When we started 4.5 years ago, we started with 3 employees. So we've had a remarkable growth, and we anticipate that continuing. These are professional employees that are professionally licensed architects and engineers, professional builders, U.S. LEED accredited professionals. We're very excited about the quality of employees that we house within our organization, and that they'll be members of your community through their involvement with our building in Brentwood. I am the lead and would encourage anybody at any time to give me a call should you have any questions about the project now or in the future. There was a site plan that was developed, it's communicated here. It's at 8419 Manchester Road. It's a former Tessalon Farms nursery. Manchester Road's to the south and Helen's to the west. We are looking at building an 8,300 square foot single story building. Navigate will occupy immediately 60% of that, and it's our intent to lease 40% for 3 to 5 years, allowing us to eventually fill in the entire building with Navigate employees. Our project exceeds the minimum parking requirements that we're excited about. And as you can tell along the front roadway here, there'd be that ability for the cross access that was important to the master plan of the area. Again, I mentioned we looked at multiple communities and landed here really because we're believers in what Brentwood Bound has to offer and what you're doing as leadership for your community. It's exciting, it's connected, it's sustainable. There's so many good things going on in what Brentwood is promoting through this development and citywide. Quite frankly, we want to be a part of it. And we think our employees want to be a part of it. Because one thing we have to look forward long term, if we're talking about putting headquarters here that could grow substantially, is a lot of our employees will also want to live in this area. You know, employees want to live close to work. So we want to be in a community that if they wanted that option, that it would be a community they'd want to live in. And I certainly think Brentwood fits that bill. Here's a rendering of the project looking at the corner of Helen and Manchester Road onto the facility. Has gone through multiple reviews with your planning and zoning team. We certainly feel and have met all the requirements for the facade look and landscaping and access and so forth. Here's another rendering. A little bit closer. Give you some idea on the materials and looks. I will say, in addition to trying to really match and draw no exception to what you're hoping to develop in Brentwood, bound by the requirements set forth, we're excited that we have the potential to potentially do more than to also embrace a initiative that the city is fostering with their own committees and so forth to enhance sustainability. My partner and I are very interested in going the next step. As I mentioned before, we have 10 LEED accredited professionals on our staff of the 14. LEED is a U.S. Green Building Council accreditation, which means we're very interested in sustainability and embracing that in buildings and new projects being built in the region. We think the next evolution of that, quite frankly, is taking hold with the concept of net zero. It's simply you know, what does net zero mean? It means you're generating more electricity than you're using. You're impacting zero energy impact. Right now, we are registered with the International Living Future Institute. We have a institute coach that's helping us and has approved all of our preliminary plans. We've got solar company proposals that have been vetted, and we've selected a solar company. We've done everything except for one last hurdle, which came at us this last week, was to verify that Amber would allow us to put this size solar panel system on our roof. When you actually go for net zero, your solar panel system, though it will be exclusively on the roof, is larger than what they're typically used to seeing, because as developers, we have to pay a little bit more for that. So most people hit a breaking point that's not as that doesn't involve as an extensive as an array. So we are vetting that with Ammon right now. If we get that preliminary approval, which we hope to have by Friday, then we have gotten verification from the International Living Future Institute that we would be the first commercial net zero building in the state of Missouri. I think that would bode well to be the first commercial building in the state of Missouri in Brentwood. We're excited about that and hope you are too. We plan to, assuming approval happens tonight, we're hoping for both first and second reading if possible, because we're very focused on that December move date due to our current lease agreements and our commitments to our employees. Backing that up, that means we'd hope to get MSD approval by 3/15, building permits submitted by 3/15. Construction started in April, with construction completing in November and move in December. So we would be your neighbor very quickly if this is passed through. So we hope it meets all your expectations and that you positively approve the project tonight. If you have any questions, happy to answer them.
Yeah, great. Thanks, Todd. Do we have any questions about this? Or, yeah, Alderman Plufka.
Yeah, I have a couple of questions, and they're actually for Lisa, not necessarily for the presenter. So should I wait?
No, go right ahead. Ask away.
Okay. So Lisa, with regard to the comment with regard to the solar panels, I'm assuming those will be oriented to the southern sky to some extent, right? So they'll be elevated higher on the north end of the panel than they are on the south end of the panel.
At this stage with the Planning and Zoning Commission review, it is for site plan and landscape plan. So we have not gotten into that detail for the building elevations yet at this point.
So we don't know at this point what the visual impact is going to be to the north, looking south on this property. This is the old Tucson Farms property, right?
Mm-hmm. Correct.
Okay.
Yeah, so, it's a vacant parcel. So
there's a neighborhood up the hill immediately to the north of this property, correct?
David, I can answer that question if that's acceptable, Lisa.
Yeah, go right ahead, Todd.
Thank you. Yeah, no, we are looking at the new systems that are currently being deployed are low profile systems. I think our highest elevation for our panel 18 to 20 inches off the roof deck. So it's lower than any of our small rooftop units that sit up there, which have also been studied as a sight line for an impact against the neighbors, and it wasn't impactful to them. So we feel really good that with our fencing on the backside of that north property and the fact that our building's actually going to be sitting so low that there will be no visual impact whatsoever to any of the neighbors, quite frankly. And all the panels do tilt slightly to the south.
So, but as I understand it from looking at the report, the fence along that backside is 6 feet tall.
Yes.
So that's not going to reach the rooftop or the roof line of your building, is it?
Our roof line's actually lower than that, if I remember correctly. Craig, can you help me with that? Where are we sitting on the roof line?
Yeah, so there's a big elevation drop from the neighbors. So, because in the back behind the building, there's an 8-foot tall retaining wall. So when you put a 6-foot tall fence on top of an 8-foot tall retaining wall, that's how the building is screened from the neighbors. We had to go through in our architects in the planning and zoning committee review. The architects actually did renderings if a person was standing on all the property surrounding our building to show that there was no visual impact any of the neighboring properties.
So, and thank you for that. And then Lisa, usually what we'll do with site plan is send out notices to properties impacted within a certain number of feet of this property. I'm assuming those letters went out despite the fact that we're in COVID, inviting them to participate in the site plan meeting?
Yes, that happened. The notices would have went out even before the January 10th Planning and Zoning Commission meeting. So my recollection was we had 3 or 4 residents that probably connected to that virtual meeting. And they also participated in the site plan subcommittee, which kind of is our work session meeting to kind of work out the details. But then there was no one that connected to the final meeting. But I really do believe it was because the neighbors' concerns or issues or questions that they had were all addressed.
So thank you for that. And my last question is the concern about the variance that's being sought with regard to the setback on the western side of the property as it abuts Helen. Does that, being at 10 feet, does that impact the sight line of people coming out of the parking lot onto Helen and trying to turn left onto Helen to then get onto Manchester Road to be able to see cars coming down Helen?
So that was all reviewed as part of the CBB traffic review. So we look for any kind of complications that might arise for sight distance. So yeah, I don't have a problem or an issue with the setback. The other thing too, I think the trade-off is so huge that we won't have access anymore onto Manchester. And so that Helen Avenue becomes the access to this development. So even though the building will be facing Manchester Road, it's really oriented to the access onto Helen. So again, I think it would be all right to have this exception for the setback.
So I actually lied. That was going to be my last question, but I just thought of one more real quick. So the cross access to the east that's being asked for and is acceptable, that will for the property to the east, will that also reduce the impetus to have another curb cut on Manchester Road? Is that why that's being done to some extent?
Well, yeah, we would hope. I mean, right now there still would be some access because of the existing business and property that's there. But once a redevelopment proposal would come for that property, we would certainly try to encourage also to just either close out that access on Manchester and orient it once again to the side street.
Very good. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Sure. Thank you. Alderman Gould, did you have your hand up?
Thank you. Looking through some of the proposals in the previous, I guess I'm a little not concerned. I just would like to get some verification on some of the water runoff. It appeared that there was a rain garden in some of the renderings in the back of the property with the reduction or request to reduce the rear property line. Is that eliminating that rain garden? And then also I noticed there were pervious pavers originally in a plan, are those now being mitigated some other way now that it looks like there's asphalt being proposed for the paving? I just wanted to get a sense for how we're managing the water run.
So I can say that the project already has been reviewed by MSD, and so they've approved it. But also because we're dealing with a parcel that's less than 1 acre in size, in this case, that's also going to require that stormwater infill development permit from the city. So they will have to go ahead and fill out that permit and also just run the calculations. But again, there already has been like a preliminary approval from MSD at this point. I don't know if their engineer is maybe on to talk more technical about it, but that's where we stand with meeting stormwater requirements.
Yeah, the change had a lot to do with our ability to directly pipe into MSD's line, and that was suitable to them, alleviating the need to detain it on the site.
And are there, for the paving areas that are the parking lot now, are the rain gardens kind of in the islands that are in between parking spaces, or have those been eliminated as well?
Well, there were requirements to have landscaping and impervious soils, on the site. So we matched that requirement by the city. And then we've collected all the stormwater that we generated from the pavement and are actually piping it directly to the MSD line.
Thank you.
I think I saw next Alderman Weggy's hand up. You still have questions, Brandon?
Of course, yeah. So following up on the pervious payment, so is that something that you all consider doing? Are you aware that that is allowed in Brentwood to do pervious payment?
Yes, we're aware that it's allowed. And quite frankly, we've explored a lot of options for sustainability. That being one of them, not only just for, collecting rainwater, but because it's environmentally friendly. So we balanced the trade-offs of that, the potential net zero and other options and things that we were able to do on the project site to balance that lastly with our ability to finance the project, and felt this was the most bang for the buck on all fronts.
Okay, and the reason that the building is not on the Manchester side with the parking behind it is because of that 17-foot elevation change. There's no way to make that work and be consistent with the whole MC corridor vision that we had. I mean, this is the first building out of the gate, and we're already off that.
Agreed. To answer your question is yes. I mean, the second reason beyond just the grades and trying to work and trying to make that cross access work, which requires that cross access to be in the front of the property, is simply because of the floodplain line that exists on the front of the property.
Okay, and then a question for Lisa. Since we're violating the 25-foot setback on the west side, will this go to the Board of Adjustment for a variance?
I should have went ahead and clarified for that. When we wrote the MC zoning district, then section 400.1375 F4, it talks about if there are any setback exceptions, that would be run through the site plan review process. So we do not go separately to the Board of Adjustment for setback exceptions in the MC district. So with going ahead and just doing this as part of the site plan review process is what is in compliance with the ordinance and how we actually intended it to work. Because in this case with the MC zoning district, we're really going for like project by project, parcel by parcel basis, like what makes the most sense. So of course there should be setback standards to begin with, but again, in lieu of something related to either development constraints in this particular parcel or something else we're trying to achieve by site plan design, that is why we are working through any exceptions through the Planning and Zoning Commission and ultimately the Board of Aldermen.
If we're able to do that by site plan process, why do we even need a Board of Adjustment then? I mean, could we do everything by site plan?
Well, so the other zoning districts, I mean, we have 11 other zoning districts in Brentwood. So the way the whole code is set up still in chapter 400, any other area bulk requirements go for variances, at least go to the Board of Adjustment. So we didn't rewrite the whole code. This is something we have in the MC zoning district.
I'm concerned we're being very inconsistent with these setbacks, right? We weren't able to recommend one on the same street a couple weeks ago, and now we're all on board with it. I think it's fine, but I feel like we're being very inconsistent on this street. And then also just one last thing, what is the consequence if we don't do the second reading tonight? I'm worried we're getting kind of loosey-goosey with these first and seconds on one night.
So it was recommended by the Planning and Zoning Commission, but it was asked by the petitioner. I think largely, again, you saw the timetable, the construction schedule that was presented tonight. So I think it does have certainly something to do with their space that they're leasing right now and trying to get construction going and so forth. But I don't know, maybe Todd wants to elaborate a little bit more on that.
No, that's exactly it. There's two really components. One is the lease we're running out of, and again, we'd built contingency in the schedule and had slowed that process down because there was a lot of due diligence done by the city and the Planning and Zoning Commission through the multiple meetings we had with them. We had 3 separate meetings with them, so that process had been slowed down considerably, and appropriately so, because there was questions that needed to be answered, and I think we vetted that accurately. And then the second thing is we're trying to get ahead on the net zero component. There are rebates and incentives that are calendar year based. We can't always guarantee that they'll be reappropriated. So we're trying to get this done before the end of the year so that we can tag into that.
Okay, thanks.
Alderman Lockmuller, I think you had your hand up.
Yes. My question's for Todd. Todd, in order to increase that rear buffer between your development and that residential, was there any consideration with the ample amount of parking you have, pulling that building maybe forward 10 feet? What?
Absolutely. The driver for the not being able to pull it forward is truly the floodplain. The flood line, let me see if may I share my screen again, please? I might be able to draw that up, and it might actually.
You can do that.
Thank you. Not as quick as I would like to be. The floodplain line literally hits the, it's not shown. Yeah, actually it is. It's the dashed line that projects through. If you can see my arrow, you probably can't. It's the dashed line that is actually, you can see how it crosses right across the front of our corner here. We pulled that as absolutely far south as we can go. Our original development performer wanted a 10,000 square foot building, and we just couldn't get it done. So we kept pulling it back, making it smaller and smaller to the point where it was kind of a, the parking wasn't the driver for the size of the building or its location that the floodplain line was.
Okay. And then while you got that up, the north, I guess it'd be the northeast corner, you say there's a 8-foot high retaining wall there, and then a 6-foot fence on top of that.
There is.
And then the building at that point is what, 10 feet tall, 12 feet?
14.
14, so it'd be right at the edge, okay.
So in this corner, right in the top, very top northeast corner is where east corner, excuse me, you'll see the 8-foot wall. It actually tapers down both to the south and to the west to 0.
Okay.
The retaining wall does. So, and then the fence line goes with it.
Was there any consideration for, as you come in off of Manchester, you have to take a right immediately into your parking lot, making that entrance in that first lane closer to the building?
There was a ton of discussion about that, especially with the Planning and Zoning Commission as they vetted this. And our civil engineer isn't here today to describe all the reasons. And the Planning and Zoning, certainly those guys had a wonderful conversation about it. There's 2 reasons predominantly you can't do that. Number one is the grades. The grades impacted that. And I'm not the engineer to explain why. And the second reason is the cross-access easement, because you know that parcel to the east actually is only on the front side. You know, it doesn't, the parcel depth isn't nearly as deep as ours. So our ability to actually connect with them along the front actually made it more viable in the future.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
You.
Okay. Do we have any other? There we go. Thank you, Todd. Have any other questions for either Lisa or Todd on this matter? Oh, Alderman Tice, I'm sorry.
So I have just a general question on the flood line that is in this drawing. Once Brentwood Bound is up and running, will the flood lines differ? So if you were going to build this building in 5 years, could you build it differently on this plot of land?
My partner Craig would know that better than I would. My answer to that is yes. It will change with the floodplain line. I mean, with the improvement. And quite frankly,
that's right.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah, the answer is yes. The flood line will move once Brentwood Bound is done.
Anything else, Nancy?
No, I was just
Okay.
sort of, yeah.
Okay. Do we have any other questions for either Todd or Lisa or anybody else? Alderwoman O'Neill.
Just to double check, that east side looks very close to where the fire chief has looked at the plans, and it is, the fire department could get in there if they needed to.
Can everybody understand? Todd, could you understand? Lisa, I could.
I'm sorry, Mrs.
I could
O'Neill.
not understand.
I couldn't either. Sorry.
Looking at the plans, it appears that there's room on the east side to accommodate the fire department if need be. This is checked by them.
Yes. So you're right. You couldn't drive a truck behind our building. Absolutely not. But whenever we're doing a development with a building, the fire department's looking for accessibility, and they take into the fact that they can carry their hoses and so forth. So it's a reach. It's a reach discussion that takes place, and they do have access to all sides of the buildings if they view it. Thank you.
Okay. Alderman Gould.
I guess that does bring up a question also. Where's the trash facilities for this, and how's that going to be stored and picked up?
Thank you. We do have trash that will be retained on the back of the building and then moved out to the curb. We are anticipating using residential dumpsters for our trash. Part of Navigate's culture, and the culture you're seeing in most office buildings now, is that due to sustainability issues, we're just not generating the paper we did before. As a company, we generate a bag of paper a week. It's surprising. So therefore, our waste is typically at the most 2 bags a week. So we will have a recyclable, and we will have a standard waste, and quite frankly, will generate less than my 3 kids and my wife and I do at our house.
And so you've got potential of 40% occupied by another tenant or 2.
Mm-hmm.
Would you require, in some lease agreement that that's not a company that generates a lot of waste and that could operate in that capacity as well?
We have to.
Okay. Anyone else? All right. So I think we are ready for a motion for a second read on Bill 6318.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, we got a motion for a second read and second on that motion. Any discussion? Alderman Plufka.
Thank you. I'm concerned about the second reading here, and I'm inclined to vote against it. Navigate's a wonderful company, and as I said before, they've done great things for us in the Brentwood Bound. But I'm troubled by the idea that we can't move this building with the idea of what the flood line is going to be in the next 2 years. That somehow this prohibits them from building now in this way, when there is already a clomer in place that would suggest that as long as what we're already doing is going to change things dramatically, that this building could be positioned farther to the south. To Brandon's point about abandoning the design aspects of our long-term planning with the first redevelopment of this street, that seems disappointing to me. Secondly, with all due respect to the answer to the questions about screening to the back, I heard a couple of additional conversations and a little more explanation as to whether or not that retaining wall was 8 foot across the entire back length of that property on the north side. And what I understood from that second response was that it's not, that Alderman Lockmuller's question suggested that it was 8 foot at its highest point, but that it tapered as it went to the west. I'm concerned, even with an 8-foot fence over it, that somebody at a still higher elevation in those neighborhoods up the hill, that they're going to be able to see onto the rooftop of this building with no problem whatsoever, let alone air conditioning units and or solar panels and or, you know, a lot of other things. And I'd like to give the neighbors in that area an opportunity to weigh in on this and see if there isn't a better way to do this. I'm against the idea of having a second reading of this tonight.
Okay, anybody else? Any discussion on that motion for the second read? Okay, seeing none, then we are going to have a vote on the motion for a second read tonight. All in favor of passing that motion for a second read, say aye.
I will say aye.
Okay, all opposed, say nay.
Nay.
Okay.
Okay, I'll tell you what, Kelly, let's do a quick roll call just so we can get the count correct.
Okay. Alderman Plufka,
No.
Alderwoman Tice,
No.
Alderwoman Sims,
Yes.
Alderman Weggie,
Nay.
Alderman Gould,
No.
Alderman Lockmiller,
No.
Alderwoman Ebling,
No.
Alderwoman O'Neill.
Yes.
Okay. Vote is 2 to 6. 2 yes, 6 no.
Okay, the motion for the second read fails by a count of 2 yes, 6 no. So we will take up the second reading of that Bill 6318 at the next Board of Aldermen meeting. Which brings us to the last item under new business, and that's Bill number 6319. Can we get a first reading by title only, please, Mr. City Attorney? And yes, you are still muted.
Okay, excuse me, I'm sorry, 6319. Bill number 6319, first reading, an ordinance approving easements and utility agreement for water facility relocations for the Brentwood Bound Improvements Project.
Okay, thank you. Dan, I think you're handling this for us.
Yes. Yeah, this was discussed at the Public Works Committee. It's fairly straightforward. There's 2 major water relocations that Missouri American Water has to do as part of the Brentwood Bound project. One is on Mary Avenue, that's roughly 840 feet of 8-inch pipe, and the other is at Brentwood Industrial at Breckenridge Industrial near the bridge, and that's roughly 340 feet of 8-inch pipe. So there's exhibits as part of this bill. We included the engineering estimates. It's roughly a $352,000 cost. And we were budgeted, I believe, at like $390. So we have enough budget in the Brentwood Bound. And then Missouri American actually, as part of good faith, they already started with some of these water main relocations. They capped the main at the bridge at Breckenridge Industrial. So this is to give them the agreement that they need so they get reimbursed and the easements to do the rest of the relocation work. So looking for a first and second reading on this.
Okay, thank you. Do we have any questions for Dan on this item? If not, can we get I'm sorry, Alderman Weggie?
Yeah, and just for reference, we talked this at Public Works, but we didn't have the actual ordinance ready yet. So this is the first time all of us are seeing this, actually. But so Dan,
Right.
you know, I appreciate the schematics kind of showing the red and the green lines, but it's not clear to me why all these have to be relocated when we're going to need water sources very close to where some of these water mains currently are, right? The event building, all of that is going to be, you know, very close to Mary Avenue, isn't it? Or maybe I'm not oriented correctly on these maps.
Yeah, and some of this, I know Craig could correct me, but I know some of this has to be done for the grading. You can't leave the old pipe in without it being impacted. We can't leave some of the existing pipe in there. And then same thing like at Breckenridge Industrial and Brentwood Industrial, because of the new bridge and realignment of the roads, some of this has to be rerouted. And then I'm sure with those, the pavilion or concession stand, whatever you want to call it, that they'll have to do a service line. You know, they'll do a new tap and then a service line extension. It won't probably be a full main unless there's water service, like for a hydrant or something of that nature. It would be a smaller line, if that makes sense. And it wouldn't probably be an 8-inch, but we'll certainly get into that later.
That does make sense if Craig agrees with that. Thanks for that.
Yeah, that's correct. They, all these relocations have to be done to allow for the Brentwood bound improvements.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Yep.
Anybody else have any questions for Dan? Yeah, go ahead, Brandon.
Yeah, I would make a motion for a second reading on this.
Second.
Okay, we got a motion by Alderman Weggie, seconded by Alderman Lockmuller. Any further discussion? All in favor of the second reading, say aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Mr. City Attorney, can we get a second read of Bill 6319 by title only, please?
Bill number 6319, second reading and consideration for adoption. An ordinance approving easements and utility agreement for water facility relocations for the Brentwood Bound Improvements Project.
Great. Can we get a Chairman entertain a motion to perfect Bill 6319 into ordinance form?
So moved. Second.
All right, we'll let Kelly figure that one out. Any further discussion? All right, roll call, please.
All right, Alderman Plufka.
Yes.
Alderwoman Tice.
Yes.
Alderwoman Sims.
Yes.
Alderman Weggie.
Yes.
Alderman Gould.
Yes.
Alderman Lockmiller.
Yes.
Alderwoman Ebling.
Yes.
Alderwoman O'Neill.
Yes.
Okay. Let's see. This passes by a vote of 8-0, and Bill 6319 passes and will become Ordinance 4956.
Great, thank you, Kelly. Brings us to the last matter, which is citizen comments. Once again, if anybody in attendance cares to address the board, now is the time to do so. You will be given up to 3 minutes.
I don't see anyone in the gallery.
Okay, thank you. And we, as I mentioned at the beginning of the meeting, I do have one matter in closed session. So if we could, that's pursuant to RSMO 610.021 subsection 3. So if we can get a motion to do that, I would appreciate it.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, thank you. And we will adjourn therefrom, right? Everybody, that's part of your motion? Great. Okay, can we get a roll call, please?
Alderman Plufka.
Yes.
Alderwoman Tice.
Yes.
Alderwoman Sims.
Yes.
Alderman Weggie.
Yes.
Alderman Gould.
Yes.
Alderman Lockmiller.
Yes.
Alderwoman Ebling.
Yes.
Alderwoman O'Neill.
Yes.
Okay.
Great. Thank you, everybody. I will see you in a few minutes.